emotional, spiritual, all the effects in your body. So Doc, today we're going to talk about that miracle food, garlic. So take it away.
We're continuing to talk about garlic.
Yes, we continue because we attempted to start it last time.
No, we're going. It's just sometimes you have to explain all the things around, so people get an idea of where it fits.
Yes.
Everything fits. It has to fit.
Connections.
Right. So we said it's good for gastroenteritis, mucousy stools, irregular stools, cold extremities, because it tonifies the kidney yang. Since it tonifies the kidney yang, the kidney energy. It's good for whenever you have cold extremities. It normally is that your energy level is low.
The kidney yang. Tell me what that is again. The yang.
That's the energetic aspect of the kidney adrenal system.
All right.
You know. So it's good for gastroenteritis, food poisoning. It's good for mucus colitis. The people who have colitis.
Oh.
And I've heard people say that they've gone and taken garlic over a period of time, especially if you get aged garlic. I have one or two companies that make aged garlic. You get where they take out some of the sting out of it, but you still keep the properties, you know. Food stagnation, indigestion, abdominal bloating, belching, flatulence, intestinal dysbiosis, right? Fermentation and things like that, like too much fermentation. Chronic toxicosis, you know, it's toxic. And candidiasis, our good friend fungus, candida. Garlic in the intestines is very good for ridding the body of, you know, candida. It decongests the liver, promotes bile flow, relieves jaundice, balances the blood sugar. So it's good for right flank soreness and swelling. Right flank. Right flank.
Okay.
Soreness is so. Whenever you have liver problems, you might get a little pain here, and as it gets worse, it's not where the kidneys are. It's higher up.
Okay.
Right under the rib cage. It comes across there, and if it gets very chronic, it will come up and go between the shoulder blades sometimes.
And you get like a sharp pain?
Yeah, you could get a sharp pain there.
Okay.
Or if it's a chronic thing, you know,
There will be a dull ache.
a dull, tight ache, because liver controls the tendons. So if the liver is uptight, all the tendons gets uptight.
Okay.
So the person have a
Uncomfortable.
uncomfortable.
All right.
It's good for hyper or hypoglycemia. And one of the things that you could use to bring down your sugar when you have diabetes is to eat plenty garlic. You know, it helps to balance the blood sugar. Okay. So it warms the interior, inside system, stimulates the heart and circulation, dispels cold and relieves fatigue and wheezing.
Okay. So that will be good for like asthma too?
Yes. Balances the blood pressure. So it good for heart lung weakness.
Okay.
Heart lung weakness. Fatigue, spontaneous sweating, cold extremities, wheezing worse than exertion, palpitations, timidity, depression.
Another one that's good for depression.
Yes. Anytime you start touching the liver relationship to the body, you normally will affect the person's depression. Circulatory deficiency, hypothermia, fingers cold, you know, that kind of stuff. Cold extremities, as we said. It's good for hypotension and hypertension. Because it's warming, if it's too low, it will bring it up. And because it thins the blood, if it's hypertension, it will tend to bring it down. It also helps to raise the nitric oxide cycle in the system. You know, so there's a lot of things. Debility from chronic disease, overwork, constitution, etc. Good for anginal chest pains, shortness of breath on exertion, and coronary deficiency. So you see the shortness of breath that you're dealing with here is a shortness of breath that comes from malfunction of the heart, mainly. You know? So it warms the exterior. So it warms the interior and it warms the exterior. So it warms out this inside and it warms out this outside. So it warms the exterior, it promotes sweating. Now, you notice that there seems to be a contradiction because I just said that it's for cold extremities and spontaneous sweating. And then I come here and it says it promotes sweating. So in one case it stops the sweating, and in the other case it promotes the sweating. It stops the sweating because the spontaneous sweating is a weakness. And if you strengthen the system, you're able to close the pores. In the other case, you reach a point now where it dispels wind, damp, cold, and relieves pain. So what happens here, it promotes the sweating in a case where you need to get rid of something.
Oh, so as to purge the body of any.
Yes. So it's good for cold and flu onset and for rhinitis and things like that. It's good for acute muscle and joint pains and cold extremities. So again, we come back to one of these things that aids in preventing pain in the joints. So you say that if you're cooking and you raise the amount of garlic in it, you notice that you have a situation. I noticed that in some Syrian communities, they use a lot of garlic. You know, if you'd have a good, long ago, you had a good hamburger place at the top of Frederick Street there. And when you went in there, the amount of garlic in the hamburger was very, very strong. You know, and you realize that somebody onto something, you know. But not only that, it kills the parasites and things like that might be in the meat. You know, so you get double value for your money, so to speak. Wind, damp, cold obstruction, acute muscle and joint pains, cold extremities. So it's good for myalgia, muscle pain, arthralgia, joint and neuralgia. Also good for earache and rheumatic deafness. Promotes urination and detoxification, drains water, dissolves deposits and clots, and reduces tumors. So liver water congestion, swelling from the waist down. Okay. Copious urination, fatigue, local serious effusions, and edema. So if it deals with water in the lower system, and you take enough garlic, it will start to drain the water out.
Okay.
So you don't always have to use Lasix. It have a lot of things that you could use that will do something similar with less side effects because it's food.
It's natural, yeah.
Yeah. So metabolic toxicosis, skin rashes, smelly stools, irritability, intermittent aches and pains. All right? It's good for gout, rheumatism, and arthritis. Of course, if it warms and it opens the circulation, it drops the blood pressure, and then it means it will flow into the joints and help to take down inflammation and things like that. It is good for arterial sclerosis, liver cirrhosis, urinary stones, and gravel. So very good for arterial sclerosis. It will clean the plaque out of the arteries. It's good for liver cirrhosis. It will have to clean up the deterioration of the liver due to disease or alcohol or something like that. It's good for thrombosis, phlebitis, and varicose veins.
Thrombosis is where the liver gets hard or something like that?
You know, thrombosis could also mean and phlebitis, where you get clots and bad flow in the venous system.
Oh.
Blood clots and things like that. Hyperlipidemia and arteriosclerosis. Tumors are good for, including malignant tumors, and it's also good for cysts.
Okay.
So if you say that it's good for candida and it's good for cysts, you begin to see there's a correlation there. So you say that if you have polycystic ovaries, one of the things that might help to start melting the cysts would be to step up the amount of garlic that you eat.
But tumors and candidiasis and yeast and all of them are related.
Tumors are normally found by fungi.
So all of them.
The only thing that can make a tumor in your body has to be fungal based.
So all of them are fungal based.
Yes.
So therefore, the garlic will knock them all out.
It will tend to go after them. But you have a problem when you have a tumor. It normally has a coating on it. And
Chitin.
chitin. Yes, you're sharp today, buddy.
Yes.
Right? So the same thing that the crab shell is made of, the tumor is made of that, but it's a soft version, flexible version. That is why cancer is so hard to kill. It's because it is made with this chitin outside, right? And so the medicine has difficulty getting in from, say, from the lymph system. Right? So that we could start a whole long discussion about that.
Yeah, I know.
It eliminates infection, stimulates immunity, eliminates intestinal parasites, and antidotes poison. So viral and bacterial.
Garlic is an antidote to poison.
So we're gonna go through it now. So it's viral and bacterial infections, systemic and local, especially digestive and respiratory, with deficiency, cold, including flu, bronchitis, lung and skin TB, enteritis, dysentery, diphtheria, typhus, cholera, stomatitis, laryngitis, tonsillitis. Garlic will help with all of them. Good for sore throat, you know, good for sores in the mouth. Fungal infections, especially candidiasis, tinea, and thrush. You know, thrush is the one in the mouth. Preventative in epidemics. So it would have antibacterial qualities and antifungal. Intestinal parasites, all types. So it will deal with the worms and it will deal with all the giardia and flukes and all these things. It helps to knock them out. Poisoning from food, herb, or bites, and insect bites.
So if you get like a little ant bite, you take some garlic,
or you could do that, yes.
And you put it on it. It will
tend to get some response.
Yes.
So it's good for wounds, ulcers, including varicose ulcers, gangrene, cold abscesses, slow healing, chronic, infected. It's good for corns, warts, calluses, and cysts.
Okay.
So one of the things that you do if you have a wart is you could take a clove of garlic, cut it, and rub it on the wart.
Okay.
And every night and morning keep rubbing it on the wart. And what it gradually does is the wart will collapse.
Okay.
Right? Scabies, pediculosis, and ringworm.
Okay.
Use. Garlic bulb is eaten or taken in tincture or other extract form. Oral intake of the crushed raw clove is the easiest to take. Garlic bulb. Crush the whole clove before swallowing. Although this may be difficult for social reasons, may give you a slightly smelly breath. Oral intake ensures the most antiseptic and anti-infective action. When taken in a diet, garlic has a more preventative role because organically grown bulbs contain several times more antiseptic substances than the chemically fertilized one. They are clearly preferable. So he says if you have garlic and you grow it naturally, you don't put chemical fertilizer on it, it comes out much stronger. You ever get garlic and it's really strong?
Yes.
You know? So garlic extract in pearls and capsule forms are a good compromise for infectious conditions if sufficiently high doses are used. Garlic tincture or juice made from freshly dried cloves are generally good preparations that will treat numerous internal and external conditions. So the dosage, raw cloves, you eat 3 cloves and you eat up to 8 cloves a day. May be taken in acute conditions such as infection. If you're doing tincture, you know, you go from 0.5 to 2 mils. It's like 12 to 50 drops with a 1 to 3 strength in 45% ethanol. Pearl or caps as directed or twice the amount for acute conditions. Smaller doses are sufficient for garlic's stimulant function if you want to stimulate the body, while larger doses are needed for antiseptic ones. Fresh garlic is more dispersing by nature and therefore better for promoting surface sweating at the onset of respiratory infections and when cold. Dried garlic is less dispersing and more appropriate for promoting internal warmth and drying damp in internal cold and damp conditions. Because its hot and dry qualities are very stimulating, garlic bulb is contraindicated in people with yin deficiency. It's like a hormonal deficiency. In other words, people who are going through menopause shouldn't use garlic to do anything. because it will just raise the heat inside them and it will get really nasty. Fluids and blood conditions, because remember, it thins the blood, it drops your blood pressure. Garlic is contraindicated in those who tend to have spontaneous bleeding, premature ejection, and spermaturia. For this reason, garlic is also contraindicated as a medical herb during pregnancy and lactation.
All right, but spermaturia, what is that?
Premature ejaculation, when the sperm ain't doing so good.
I thought it was something else.
As with microalgae, garlic may cause flatulence in sensitive stomachs, and with intestinal dysbiosis present, ingest with peppermint, ginger, cumin, coriander, and other calmatives.
Okay.
Cumin is the seed. And simply persevere for a few days until the crisis situation is over. There ended thing. This is garlic also promotes elimination in acute and chronic damp conditions such as lung, phlegm, cold, intestine, mucus damps. You know, your intestines have plenty of mucus. You take garlic and you're watching your stools and you'll see all this white stuff coming out, you know. If you have a lot of candida, you'll see that coming out too. In chronic intestinal dysbiosis and candidiasis, for example, the remedy musters a complex of actions that rebalances the microflora, kill off the fungal candida strain, reduces intestinal putrefaction, and promote normal digestive activity. That in Chinese medicine is a contemporary example of spleen damp and food stagnation. That's what we would call that. You know? The result of promoting stimulation and elimination is detoxification. Garlic bulb is a good resolvent detoxicant. For resultant endogenous toxicosis, disorders such as tumors, viscous blood, and fatty and hard deposits.
Okay.
Right? Its comprehensive effect on circulatory, digestive, and respiratory functions means that all metabolic processes are stimulated and ultimately regulated. Although the means are quite different, the net result is almost the same as that produced by detoxicant remedies. Nevertheless, garlic warm stimulant dispersing quality indicates use mainly for individuals whom elimination is obstructed by energies of damp and cold. Equally, it will tonify the deficiency, especially a yang deficiency, where there's a bad energy deficiency that led to toxicosis in the first place. Okay?
All right, so that's garlic. So where do we go from here? After all these, we had bee pollen, turmeric, garlic.
You could touch another genius herb, you know.
Yes.
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon, let's do cinnamon.
Right.
Let's do cinnamon.
So what you begin to realize is that you have all these herbs around you that does all kinds of things that we have lost contact with.
Yes.
So for instance, if you have a circulation problem, you know, you want to go to the doctor and he'll probably give you a circulation, something to open the circulation. When garlic will do the job most of the time, you know. Okay. Sometimes you have a person and they like garlic and their blood pressure a little high. They say, well, eat a couple cloves of garlic every day for a little while. And they come and tell you, hey, my blood pressure dropped down low, you know what I mean? So we have cinnamon. Cinnamon is, again, one of those herbs that has a wide-ranging effect. One of the nicest things that they use cinnamon for is for people with type 2 diabetes. Tends to be a very powerful sugar regulator. Especially the brand that comes out of Ceylon and Sri Lanka, you know, the cinnamon bark. You know, we get most of our cinnamon bark from Grenada, I think, right?
Okay.
So, functions and indications: it warms the interior, stimulates the heart and circulation, dispels cold, relieves debility, promotes menstruation, and relieves pain. So you realize we did turmeric, it promotes menstruation. We did garlic, it promotes menstruation. We're doing cinnamon, it promotes menstruation. And yet still you'll have people in the society who have menstrual pain and they'll never think of drinking cinnamon tea for a little while or ginger tea. Right?
What about people who have irregular menstruation?
Same thing. you know.
It will help with that as well.
They help with that too.
Yeah.
And irregular menstruation, lots of times, is caused by fungal infections.
And the garlic will take care of that.
The garlic will take care of that. Right. So also will be the turmeric. Turmeric is also antifungal. Not as comprehensive as garlic, but still, you know, good. Warms the interior, stimulates the heart and circulation, dispels cold, and relieves debility, promotes menstruation and relieves pain. Right? Heart and kidney yang deficiency, again, energy. Cold limbs, extremities, palpitations, dizziness, fatigue. So it will tonify the heart and it will tonify the kidneys. So cold limbs and extremities, so it will warm the extremities. You could use cinnamon to warm the extremities. It's good for palpitation because it will strengthen the heart, and when it strengthens the heart will correct the palpitations. Fatigue, you know, circulatory deficiency, hypothermia when you're running cold. Yeah. Exhaustion and debility from overwork, stress, and illness. So you know, if you're suffering from exhaustion, you come home and you could have a cup of cinnamon tea. You know, genitourinary uterus cold. It's good for lumbar pain and weakness. Sexual disinterest.
Oh,
That's a nice way of putting it. Eh?
yeah.
You just feel blah. Frigidity, menstrual cramps, delayed periods, impotence, and urinary incontinence.
Okay.
You can't hold the urine.
Okay.
Cinnamon tea has helped to fix that. All right. So it's good for frigidity, menstrual cramps, delayed periods, impotence, urinary incontinence, and amenorrhea, which is very small amount of menstrual problems. Warms the stomach intestine, promotes digestion, relieves pain, resolves dysbiosis. When you say dysbiosis, is like, you know, when your digestion not working and you're creating too much fermentation. And relieves bloating, lowers blood sugar. So it is good for appetite loss, chronic loose stools with undigested food. It means the stomach is not doing its job properly. Abdominal colic and distension, cold limbs, and early morning diarrhea. So it's good for chronic gastroenteritis, chronic dysbiosis, candidiasis, parasitosis, and hyperglycemia, high sugar. Well, you see, again, we come to chronic dysbiosis, which again is bacterial, and candidiasis, which again is candida. So all these things are very strong antibacterial, antifungal.
Right. So for people who can't use the garlic, they could
use cinnamon, or they could use turmeric. So you begin to understand that if we still had those traditions, it would be very hard to develop candida in your system.
But yes, and I'm realizing why these older folks were so strong in their old age, and didn't suffer from all these maladies that seem to be commonplace today, because of the foods they eat and the way the lifestyle they live.
Yes.
Yeah, and they recognize the connections, and because they would tell you, you just need to do so and so and so, and it'll be all right, and they go on about the business.
So you say it astringes, dries damp, stops discharge and bleeding. So it's good for passive hemorrhage and deficiency conditions from the lung or intestines. It's good for epistaxis, nosebleed, hematuria, menorrhagia, too much pain, metrorrhagia, you know, too much pain, too much bleeding, chronic diarrhea and dysentery. Why? Because again, it knocks out the bacteria associated. Genitourinary damp, including white vaginal discharges, delayed periods with cramps before onset of leukorrhea in deficiency cold conditions. So it's good for leukorrhea. Reduces infection, antidotes poisons, and eliminates parasites. Chronic bacterial and fungal infections, including cystitis, candidiasis, enteritis, bronchitis, upper respiratory infection, cholera, typhoid, intestinal and skin parasites, including lice, animal bites, and stings. So you begin to get an idea of so he says, they always have a write-up at the end, you know. Overall, Cassia cinnamon bark is generally more widely used in herbal medicine. He talks about the Ceylon cinnamon bark, with its indescribable fragrance, is valued more in perfumery for its powdery, sweet essential oils, and in cooking for its superior taste. But it is also good for dropping the blood sugar. It's the cinnamon that drops the blood sugar the most. So sometimes you'll use cinnamon, you hear somebody go, I can say, well, you drop the sugar, but only a little bit. Where you get Ceylon, cinnamon from Ceylon, which is a little bit more expensive, the smell is different, it's much more subtle. And when you take it, the sugar drops quite remarkably.
That might be owing to the soil content and the climate and all of that.
The
conditions.
So you can have a situation, I remember reading a thing where the guy says that he was dealing with turmeric, and he had about 1,000 different variations on the chemical content because of the soil, you know, the weather, all that sort of stuff. Whether it's dry, whether it's wet, you know, that all that sort of stuff.
So, Doc, we have about 5 minutes left in this program, and I just want you to touch on the connections that the mental connections that manifest, how they manifest as physical ailments.
Whoa!
Just touch, just touch. When we do the next program, we will go into depth. But
well, I think that if you begin to touch on that, I'll give you an idea. In some people who have idea of the biblical theory, they say that in the first chapter of Genesis, when the darkness moved, and God said, let there be light, between the time of where the light was made to where things began to make, he had to have something extra to do that. And the things that he had to do to make that was emotions.
right.
So emotions had to come into the world. What is emotions? And you look at it, for want of a better terminology, it's say chi or electrovoltaic effect, right? In other words, you had to have pressure. So you had to have the light, but the light had to have a pressure, it had to have a direction.
A driving force.
Yeah, driving force.
Okay.
And the driving force is emotions. You do not accomplish anything in life when you think up your fancy thoughts and things. If you don't have the emotions to hold on to it and push it, it will go nowhere.
I'm not sure if it's you who told me that when God created man, there was some kind of passion involved.
Yeah.
Right? So passion is an emotion.
Passion is an emotion. Passion is like the ultimate expression of emotion, in the sense that you hear they say you have to have the passion to do this. You know, you have to have the drive to do this. But it's not only the passion that you have to have. You have to have the intent behind the passion.
Oh.
You can have passion running around and being destructive.
So it's not singular emotion, but a collective emotion.
Yes, you have various aspects of it. So you'd have to have the passion, which would fuel you to do it, give you the pleasure and the sense of purpose. But you'd have to have the intent behind it to hold it in place.
Right.
So when it meets obstacles, you don't fall down. It's because you have that intent, which will keep driving you forward.
That's the impeccability, the stick-to-itiveness.
Then now you begin to define and refine what it is you're talking about. And once you understand that, you'll understand that one of the things that you need to have all through your life is your joie de vivre, your joy of life.
Joy of life. Joie
Right.
de vivre. Okay.
Yeah, you have to get up and you have to have an enthusiasm for life. And then you look at the things that takes away. You know, lots of times I have patients and they come and they sit down and they talk to me.
No joie de
And I
vivre.
look at them and I say, what kind of work you do? They might be an engineer, they might be working somewhere. I say, how's the job going?
Okay.
I ain't really like that job, right?
But you're doing it for 20 years.
Yes, get out of it and do something else. You know, I remember I was 49, I was doing engineering, I was quite successful, having a little farm up the road, and I decided that had come to an end, you know.
It wasn't
I'd
doing it
explored.
for you
It wasn't
anymore.
doing it for me anymore. So I went on to him, I said, let's go to the States. Let's go to the States, I'm going and study acupuncture. And she wanted to go to the States. She said, sure. So that was it. 6 months later, we're gone.
And here we are today. Well, Doc, that's the end of the 5 minutes. So we will dive into that
Yes.
some more.
And what happens when
Yeah.
things come and interfere with the emotions?
Yes,
Turn them around, make them negative, and all sorts of things.
yes, and how they manifest.
Yes.
Yes. Well, this has been another episode of Spiritual Health, and we are only just begun. We have only scratched the surface. We are now getting into the really meaty part of the matters, and we invite you to join us each week and get your installment of Spiritual Health.